Hello, everybody, and welcome back to part 2 of this in-depth interview with the incredible composer, sound designer, musician, Mr. Michael Roth, all the way from California. Hello again, Michael.
Hello.
Long time no see.
We haven't changed our shirts, and you're still sitting in that same.
I know. I really got left in the theater for a few days, and now you've come back to me, and now we're gonna dive into
You should
your
get somebody to deliver a pizza to you while you're sitting.
That would be lovely. Let me tell you.
Yes, I'm also thinking 12th night, but that's okay.
Oh, well, that's a perfect segue because
there you go.
we're gonna dive into that song right off the top because part 1, if you've watched it, if you haven't, go watch it now. We talked all about your career, the amazing people you've gotten to work with, your tips and tricks and wisdom of the industry, and now this time we get to get a little bit more musical with diving into some of your compositions. Yeah. So first off, we're going to start talking about one of my personal favorites, the one that I vividly remember having a big audience reaction to when I saw this on opening night.
I wonder what that's going to be. I just don't know. What's it?
Well, it's 12th night. I was there opening night. I was lucky. Stratford Shakespeare School. They got us there opening night. I was dead center of the orchestra, right in front of the sound booth. So kind of right where I am now. Perfect spot. Perfect spot. There was the mini fridge hanging down, and the music had already been great. But just in this moment of Hold Thy Peace, which is a song that is just so unique, and it just has such energy to it that the minute it started, the whole audience just reacted in such an uproar of joy and energy. And I'm sure you probably were actually in the theater that night too. So we probably would have.
I was there for opening night.
Yeah.
One of the things, Dez's productions, the ones that I think went the best at Stratford were the ones that had a long and enough preview process, because by the time 12th night opened, it was really confident.
Yeah.
Agreed. Whereas I think Macbeth, I heard from people who saw it late in the summer saying, wow, it's great. But because it had just kind of, everybody just owned it,
Yeah.
And that's performance and stuff. I mean, it's just one of those things. But yes, I was certainly there that night. Yeah. Why we didn't say hi to each other, I don't.
Who knows? I mean, I was just a young scamp at the time.
Yeah.
Meeting Christopher Plummer for the return. That was the night I actually got to shake his hand.
He was there. That's right.
He was there with his wife, and I was there eating my Haagen-Dazs an intermission. And sure enough, I turn around, and literally only a few steps away is Christopher Plummer. So I was able to go up and shake his hand and say hello. It was a very magical night. But back to Hold Thy Peace.
Yes.
So for people who haven't seen this particular production, which go to Stratfest at home, you can watch it there. This is, every song within this version of 12th Night has a bit of a musical theme or style to it. So this one is a Beach Boys inspired type sound to it. So first off, how did you decide that was going to be the song styling that was going to fit for this particular moment in the show?
I don't know. No. Yeah. There's a couple things to say. First of all, as I said in the first part of this epic story of my life interview, I'm sorry. Really, I am an old rock and roller. That I know a lot of other stuff, but really, that's where I'm at. So if I do sit at a piano, I kind of I do that as opposed to playing the pathétique, for example.
Yes.
And that's because that's kind of what I know how to play.
Yeah.
So actually, it's kind of a Beach Boys thing, but really, I think what makes the song work is that there's a rather, if you will, sophisticated little canon that gets you into that.
Yes.
Because if that wasn't there, then the release that happens into rock and roll would be, so what the hell is that?
Yeah.
that being said, as Des has said, the lyric for Hold Thy Peace, and I prithee hold thy peace, thou knave. That's all you got. That's the whole damn lyric. He stayed up real late on that one, right? And and it's probably not him, right? It's probably was somebody else. It probably was a catch, which is around, basically.
Yeah.
So the tune. That's it. Now I again, I can't play the 3-part harmony, or the 3-part canon that it becomes. But basically, I knew that we had, Feste, who's Ben Carlson, and
Stephen O'Matt,
Stephen we met, and Brian Denny.
Yeah.
So I wrote it as a 3-part canon. Now, this is adopted in some. Des and I had done a 12th night in La Jolla, and a lot of this we had sort of tried out some and done some stuff with. Now, there'll be a real advantage to hearing the recording of it.
Yes.
With the scores, because it's thoroughly unpianistic to play the 3-part canon. The voices are right on top of each other. Yeah. But it harmonically and rhythmically works. And then it basically just hits into rock and roll. And so what I was going to say, hold thy peace, and I prithee hold thy peace, thou knave, basically means, shut the fuck up, you idiot. That's basically what it says,
Yes. Exactly.
Again, pardon my French, but it's not the most inspired.
No, it's very basic.
It's not blow, blow, thou winter wind, and it's not, come away death. It's just shut up already, Yeah. But so the way the piece kind of evolved, but it's 3-part now. Because if you watch the video, there's a couple things that are going on behind the scenes that you all might as well know. Which is, first of all, Ben Carlson is a very talented fella and a very good bass player, in addition to being not a bad actor either.
Yeah.
In fact, has perfect pitch. So that's handy.
Yes.
So he knew where this A was. So he didn't need the pitch.
Right.
He could do it.
Yeah.
And he could.
Yeah.
But as you see the band, so during Mistress Mine, which is, and Des and I really did the score together. I mean, Mistress Mine is a bit more him than me. This is a bit more me than him.
Right.
The band comes in on a downbeat. So what that meant was that everybody on stage, in one way or another, who was going to play along with it, had to have a click track.
Right.
So if you look carefully, you can see that Ben has an earpiece.
Yeah.
And a bunch of the musicians. I don't think Stephen or Brian had it.
Yeah.
So what Ben is hearing is a click track, and he's hearing me count it off. And what that means is that the whole section that's a cappella, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 20 measures or so.
Yeah.
He conducts, he's hearing the beat. So he hears the beat, and he's playing, he's doing the backbeats to the click track.
Right.
And about half of the band is hearing the click track, so they know when to enter on the A major.
Yeah.
And because he's a really good musician, he really is conducting in Stephen, and especially Brian.
Yeah.
Bless his heart. It was good that he would be conducted in.
Yes.
And then, of course, the idea that Brian is going to rock out on a little solo was fantastic. Okay, so basically we're in A.
Yeah.
So then, when Brian comes in, hold that piece, and I prithee hold that piece. It's basically a basic 1/4 rock and roll. And then we did a little key change because that's what you do. Pay me enough money, I'll play it again. But now, things to realize, especially if you're listening to the mix. No, there's no piano on stage. So in fact, there's a whole pretty thick rock and roll band with saxes. I found the orchestration. I mean, it's saxes and trumpets and a bunch of guitars, like a good solid rhythm section playing, and as I recall, the big gliss. I actually did that while I was mixing it. I remember Vern Good, who's done shows at Stratford since then quite a bit, but was my assistant on it. Yeah, I think I even said, we really need a glissando to get into the key change. And
it totally works.
And I said, I haven't done it, so I really need to do so. I think that was in fact an overdub in my apartment. And then also, if you really listen carefully, this is where mixing comes in. Interestingly, the glissando, in fact, goes from like this side of the stage to this side. So if you're sitting in the middle, where you, I guess, were, the glissando, in fact, went like that.
Oh, perfect. From one side to the other side. That's great.
Yeah, I mean that's something you can do in mixing, and you go, that would be amusing.
Yeah,
and that's it. It was not a hard tune to write. Yeah, the thing that I like about it very much in retrospect, because Brian Dennehy's daughter Elizabeth is a good friend of mine, and it's her. I think Brian's played Willie Loman and Jamie Tyrone. I mean, he's played some
pretty serious. Yeah,
some upset people in his time.
Yes,
people who have issues with things in life. But she loves it because it's her dad just being happy and funny. Yes, and and rocking out and dancing, and I think it just really makes her happy. So I mean, well, we both lost both in the past year. We both, Brian's been maybe a year and a half, and Chris
year and a half,
a couple of months, right? So and they were friends, because they acted together in Inherit the Wind on Broadway. Isn't that right? Yes, they did.
Yes, no, you're right there. Yes,
right. Yeah, well, they just two giants. And happily I worked with him. And Brian was great. I mean, during I remember during tech rehearsals, sometimes I would just stand next to him to say, okay, here it comes, and Ben's going to conduct you, and he'd go, got it, and then eventually it was all cool. I mean, he was totally game, totally got that it was funny. And totally got that it's rock and roll, man.
Well, it's so Sir Toby, this song. Like the song once again just emulates, first of all, the setting that this is a bunch of drunk guys late at night. Yeah. That they wouldn't be singing Sondheim with all his complex lyrical work. Basically, Hold Thy Peace for the Hold Thy Peace Thou Knave is probably as much as they probably could get out in a drunken stupor. Right. And it just has that burst of energy that is Sir Toby. That he, like, if you were going to characterize him as a song, it'd be something like that has a good steady rhythm, because his character is a very rhythmic character, but then it just glissandos into this big boisterous energy. So you totally captured who Sir Toby is, and the fact that you're right, he does get the big nice solo that leads into everything. Like, it's great. Let's actually get into the other big song we'll be talking about from Twelfth Night, which is To the Devil, which is, as you said, what you've said in your other interviews that you've done about this. This is one of your personal favorites from the show. And it is heavy guitar. I mean, it's Ben Carlson on top of a plexiglass box tormenting Tom Rooney as Malvolio and playing his guitar. So it's a really, it's a cool kind of jazzy piece. Well, let's kind of dive into kind of how you went with that one.
Sure.
and kind of came up with the concept of it.
I think one of the reasons why I really like it, I'm just going to throw things away here.
Yes, clear the space as we go.
Yeah. There's a couple of things, and I did say this in the other interview, but and it's not like I've seen a million productions of Twelfth Night, but I've certainly seen a couple, a fair number of them, and usually that song is one of the songs that kind of disappears, a little bit, or is cut, and but I think as Des and I talked about it, like I say, as it evolved, Feste is. I mean, why is Feste treating Malvolio that way? What the hell? He's being just horrible to this guy, and he's really, if you will, fucking with his head. I mean,
absolutely, he is.
It's nuts.
Yeah,
and basically he just brings the guy down, and it's a mean little tune. Now, actually, yes, there are guitars in it, but what the guitars are doing is actually, Ben's playing bass. Yeah. First of all, so he's actually, and he's not really playing a lot of bass in the song proper. Because he finally just plays the harp. He plays a little bit of bass. I don't remember now, but actually, again, there's a lot of pre-records going on too. But so I just liked that the result of what we did clearly had its moment of, whatever that moment was, it defined it. Because I don't want to say it was only, if you will, fuck you, Malvolio, whatever. There's certainly amount of that in it. But it's also saying, go, the bad people, go to the devil, and that's that. It had its rebellious side to it. Yeah. So, but it's really a keyboard, that is to say, synth kind of lick that's going on. When in the last interview, when I said, what do I sound like when I write? Yes, Hold Thy Peace, that is largely me. And yes, I certainly can do that. Yeah. But the chromaticism in the rock and roll that's here, that's kind of me. Because there's a C minor chord, but then over a G, but then then it hits an E natural. Yeah. So the lick is both minor and major and kind of chromatic and has a certain tension to it. Yeah. So that I like that, and it also it gives you more material to sort of spin out on. I mean, put it this way: I think one of the other secrets to why Hold Thy Peace is successful and has had 12,000 hits on YouTube or something. Or whatever, is because it's also not terribly long. Yeah. and it gets interrupted. Yes. because I'll tell you, that song would have been really hard to end. Yeah. As opposed, I mean, that would be really awful, right? Yes. Yeah. So it's great that it gets cut off by what's her name? Mariah. Right.
What type of caterwauling is this?
Yeah, which is basically shut the hell up. Yeah. You were singing "Shut the hell up." Well, shut the hell up already.
Exactly.
But this one, there's more, because what he's saying is so I am gone, sir, and anon, sir. I will meet you again in a trice, like to the old vice, your need to sustain. basically that is, I'm going, but I'll be with you again to enable your need to live, to
Yes.
sustain.
Yeah. Because he's going off to go get the pen and paper for Malvolio to write on.
Yeah, or he actually already has, I think, but it's in any case. Then with his dagger, who with dagger of Blath in his rage and his wrath cries, "Aha!" to the devil. He's basically saying, "And to the devil with you."
Yes.
Right, and so because the musical material, I haven't played this in quite a while, so indulge.
I am gone, sir, and anon, sir, I'll be with you again in a trice, like to the old vice, your need to sustain.
It sustains itself, okay, because it's not sitting any place in particular. To sustain, and then this is typical rock and roll. I'm just going up a fourth. And that gets us up to the kind of chorus. It's really just a one.
In his rage and his wrath cries, aha, to the devil, like a madman, to the devil, pare thy nails down, to the devil, adieu, good man devil.
So it's a pretty solid rocker that I think the chromaticism of it sustains it in an interesting way. And then what's really cool is that Ben, as Feste takes out, having traveled down, takes out his blues harp, and just kind of wails away. But there's an interesting thing in the orchestration that you can kind of hear in the recording, but you really heard it live. The strings are doing this really interesting little George Crumb kind of glissando. They're just kind of really glissing up on notes, ad-libbing from the violins going from this is like right as he's walking out with the harp.
Ooh, so creepy.
So it kind of combines a lot of the things that I really find in music compelling and interesting, and I just like that in our production, and Des has heard me say this too, that in our production, it's a kick-ass kind of moment of rebellion.
With this, once again, you're jumping genres and styles. You're like, this has a very unique sound that reminds me of like Southern blues kind of. There is a church sound to it, which ties well with the fact that
there's an organ sound that there's an organ sound that kind of does that. But like I say, somebody said, and this is true, that there is something about the chromaticism of it that's a little Randy Newman like, and that's.
There is some Randy Newman in there for sure. There is definitely like it almost reminds me of his Friends on the Other Side that he did for Princess and the Frog, that the big bad guy number. But it's that chromatic like
for that song, just so you know.
Oh wow! Yeah. There you go.
And I coached Keith David on it. Right here, he was standing right here. And in fact, the demo for that song. So here's a little bit of Hollywood for you. So Randy wrote it, and then the demo I actually put together here.
Right.
And it's actually me playing guitar on the demo, not the studio album, but the demo.
Yeah.
And we both did the choral vocals on it, him and me.
Are you ready?
Yeah, mainly because we did have like, well, Alice in fact was on the demo recording of it. We got some of my friends in to be in the choir, so it was Alice and a few other. So Alice is probably getting a tiny royalty from Princess and the Frog, even then.
That is interesting. But there we go. To the Devil. I mean, such a fun, darkly catchy tune.
Yeah. And it kind of does its thing, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, I dig it, and the rest of the songs. I mean, look, because I know one of the guys on their 12th Night thing really liked "Come Away Death," and that's, you know,
Yes.
I like that very much too, and you know, it's a nice piano song with, and I actually really do like the sort of vocal harmonies and the orchestration of it. Obviously, "Wind in the Rain."
Oh, that had a whole music video.
Yeah,
come out that year.
Well, I mean, Dez is. What I remember from our conversations was, you know, it's a reggae feel.
Yes.
It's sort of reggae-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, it's hard.
It's a great kind of send-off tune,
right?
Which covers over the really dark aspects of the.
What I remember saying around then was, what's interesting about reggae songs, because a lot of them are very political, is you know, Bob Marley songs and all that, is that you can kind of make big statements, but because the beat is so sort of infectious, there's a lightness to it.
Yes.
So, you know, it raineth every day is a dark statement.
It is.
But it's said in the same way that there's a great Bob Marley tune, "So Much Trouble in the World." So much. I'm faking it now, but you know, the darkness of it is kind of tempered by the kind of catchy, infectious beat of it, but it's still anthemic, and that's really what I think is successful about the song.
Yeah.
And then the you know, and then you know, but then we got. You know, it was a kind of a straight 8 rock thing, and it got us kind of away from the guitars thing to a bit more kind of 4/square rock and roll, A minor, and it just kind of, I think, helped put the edge into it.
Yeah, I agree.
And frankly, if you watch the production now, you'll see just how much I do variation-wise with.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there was a lot of orchestration in that production, and and the other sort of phenomenological thing that would be interesting is, if were you to come to the first tech rehearsal and watch the cast sing both the live instruments and the live singing with the pre-records, it would look kind of dead. Because the tempo, it's a very interesting phenomenon, but rock and roll really shouldn't be fast. And it's one of those things that classical pianists, when I've written rock and roll licks and sonatas, they tend to push the tempo.
Right.
Because if it's slower, you dig 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not. Even Hold Thy Peace is not all that fast.
No, it isn't.
But when so the first time through and everybody's just listening to the click and just playing with the pre-records, they're all just like this. You know, and just trying to feel this mechanical thing under them that's going to hold it all together. And then you do it about 3-4 times. Yeah. By the third time, Ben, for example, who's really good, you know, just kind of start going, yeah, no, the tempo's good. I'm good. You know, because it would always feel slow the first time. Always feel, man, we're just dragging here. But you're not. You're in fact, really hitting the groove pretty well. So
Mm-hmm.
there you go.
There we go. I mean, now on to the piece we've alluded to a few times, which is the Tempest that you do with Mr. Plummer.
Yes, the year before, but that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. We're jumping back 1 year.
Yeah.
But once again, this is your very cinematic Tempest, I would definitely say. And it has some great underscores, some great musical motifs and moments. So the first thing we're going to talk about is When the Bee Sucks. Which is a really interesting lyric. But I mean, for you, when you were writing this, because I know sometimes composers, like I know Howard Shore, he's talked about it, like when he was doing Lord of the Rings, and he got to do Two Towers, and he had to come up with the music for the Rohirrim people, and he was like, oh, well, I really want to do something with like the Finnish fiddle or like the Finnish violin. It has that very distinct Norwegian sound. Like, so when you were doing Tempest, because Tempest does have a very distinct sound to it, did you come in knowing these are the types of instruments I want to create for this island, or was that something that you kind of found organically in writing this? Because Ariel's music is very ethereal. It has that kind of string, but yet also has that kind of push and pull, the air and the waves. Like, how did you kind of come through with that?
The first thing, this is not so much the case with Where the Bee Sucks, but with everything else that she does, like Full Fathom 5 and other things earlier. In fact, it's Juliana's voice that you're hearing almost throughout the play. The opening, I don't remember. But
yeah, it's when she's diving down.
For that one whole recording session with her. And Juliana's a good singer. She'd be the first to say she's not a great singer. She's a good singer. She's very musical. So it's not, but I wanted her to be in charge of her voice being recorded.
Right.
So that when she casts spells or does whatever she does, it's her voice that she's putting out into the universe.
Yeah.
So I know every time that she's singing and she'll like stop the music and she stops her voice and then brings her voice back on again. So so that is in fact a lot of what you're hearing is her doubling everything, doubling what the instruments are doing and all that kind of stuff. So that I think was my, rule number one, as it were, that it's her.
Well, she is the voice of the island. Ariel is the voice and spirit of the island. Right.
So whatever I'm doing with orchestra and everything else, she's right in the center of it.
Yeah.
So, and that's certainly, I mean, given what we're going to look at, that's certainly the case for the first act anyway.
Yes. She's manipulating everything. Yeah.
Right. For argument's sake. And then musically in the second half, I kind of do some other things and it gets a bit more orchestral. But I mean, if I'd been really pure about this, we would hear Ariel's voice in the Utopia music, but we don't. It's a pretty straight string orchestra.
Yeah.
So then I know in other songs, like in the Freedom song, which I'll just tell one thing about quickly.
Love that Freedom song.
Yeah, we can talk about it a little bit. There are shofars in it, and other strange wind instruments. But the I'm gonna grab a loose leaf notebook here. But in fact, how did we rehearse the Freedom song? This is one of my favorite. I knew we wanted a beat through the whole song, right?
Yeah,
it had to be a beat. And so in rehearsal, I would do this. Come on, things I'll pay for fish. No, and all I would play. So it's E flat.
No more dams I'll make for fish, nor fetching firing at requiring. Nor fetching firing at requiring. Nor scrape trencher, nor wash dish. Nor scrape trencher, nor wash dish. Ban, 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 Caliban. has a new master. Get a new man. Has a new master. Get a new man.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did that live in rehearsal.
Okay.
Hitting my script with this kind of mallet. Might have even been this mallet. Okay. And then if you listen carefully in the recording, this is still there. Because I wanted something that was just neutral, that didn't sound like a really great drum. Because God knows there are great drums. I just wanted something that didn't sound like anything other than I'm going to hit whatever I got here. Bang on a can, so to speak, right? And so I know that the beat in the song recording includes that and, other stuff.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, very clearly I took advantage of having Bruce Dow there because he can really sing.
Yes, he can.
And, and we're still very good friends. But, really good singer and really good actor. And so he was really the one. I mean, Dion's obviously great, and so is Gare, but Bruce is the most sort of musically astute of the three, so he could really hold it together. Yes. And did. I mean, so he was sort of the solid ace in the hole in the middle. So it's a cool tune.
There we go.
Yeah.
But where the bee sucks.
Yeah. Well, so I think, the first thing is...
Like just looking at all the instrumentation you have in this one piece. Yeah. Like you have English horn, you have bass flute, I think, bass clarinet, trombone, trumpet, violins.
But good luck, there is bass flute. Look at that. My goodness.
Yeah, like you had it's a plethora of sound that creates a really unique bit to it, which is just fascinating. I mean, just reading the sheet music here, it's really unique.
Well, I'll tell you what, the first thing, it's just one page. So the first thing about the lyric, where the bee sucks, there suck I, in a cowslip's bell I lie, there I couch when owls do cry, on the bat's back I do fly after summer. So what's up with that last line? What's a workaday composer supposed to do with that? Because the sense of the line is, it's not another nice 4-square line. It doesn't go on the bat's back I do fly and everybody goes away. It doesn't do that. The sense of the line continues to and part B. After summer, merrily, merrily, merrily shall I live now. Under the blossom that hangs on the bough. So it's actually, he doesn't, it's not hold thy peace and I prithee hold thy peace.
No, it's a little more complex.
It's actually kind of odd. So I had to stay up a little bit late. And but I had to find a way to kind of let that fourth line move to the end of the song, right?
Right.
Sorry. So in other words, what I haven't thought about this in a long time. So, but it's clear that I'm not going to sit on this sort of G minor thing for the word fly. I clearly have to put something there that I have to move from, right?
Yes.
Whereas all the other 2-bar cadences, so to speak, can sit, right? Because there's there I go when owls do on the back. So it resolves a bar late, right?
Yeah.
And now we have to move on to new territory.
Yes.
And then it also, I think the other thing is that it's not a song. The last line is not a rock'em sock'em last line.
No, it just kind of fades.
Right.
It's ethereal once again. It's that airy.
Right. It's
quality.
not because in musical theater workshops.
Mhm.
I'm sorry if I sound so cynical. I'm
No.
not. I'm really not. But in a musical theater workshop, they might say, "Merrily, merrily shall I live now under the blossom that hangs on the bough, and I'll be free."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, give it a button.
Right. Take us somewhere that
Yes.
tells us what it's about, but it doesn't. The lyric is, "Merrily shall I live now under the blossom that hangs on the bough," and it's just an image that she puts out there for us. So I'm not resolving it, but it is a key center. When we hit now, I'm in sort of an F sharp major chord. And I probably in the chart itself, the orchestra, I probably had them repeat this.
Yeah.
To continue until Prospero
Yeah.
says what he says as he, I shall miss thee.
Yeah.
And it's very beautiful. So it's an interesting challenge, that song, because it's not exactly strophic, right? It's kind of plays around. I have no idea what the original version was, and I have I heard other versions of it? I'm sure I have, but I remember being rather pleased with it. I also, this is a tiny thing, but I remember Juliana was really cool with this because it feels like I live now under the blossom that hangs on the bough. I do a little back phrase on the bough. And which I think also sustains the energy.
Yes.
As opposed to being under that blossom that hangs on the bough, right? But I put bough just on beat 2. That just somehow feels like it could keep going. But it's very chromatic, which is why I guess I had so much fun with the orchestration. I mean, it really, but it. Does kind of move around quite a bit.
Once again, it's that airy brightness of who this character is. Like, once again, it's very Sondheim, and the fact that Sondheim for character, and it's the same thing here where you're right,
and it does have its, if that's more the rock and roll soul I come from, this is a little Sondheim. In its chromaticism. There, I said it. No, I mean, it is in the kind of Little Night Music kind of way.
Yeah, correct. Near, closer.
I can't deny it's kind of there. The other thing I was going to say is because the bit that leads up to it, the Drown My Book.
Yeah.
Which again I haven't looked at in a long time, but I kind of took it out.
Yeah.
It's akin to Utopia in the string orchestra kind of way. But one of the things that that maybe for those of you who want to say, so how do you write for a string ensemble to underscore Christopher Plummer? And one of the things that I realize I'm doing here and a little bit in Utopia as well is it's first of all I keep it away from any resolution by basically sustaining everything in it a long time. And this is, I guess, compositional chops to some extent.
Yeah.
That basically, I know that I need to keep this kind of unified sound without a whole lot of motion in it. Nonetheless, have some motion in it and build with him live, because he'll do it slightly differently every night. Everybody will, right? And also it's never particularly lying in one chord or another. So, right. So that's, so we're sort of in a, I don't know, we're not in any key there really, but
yeah.
Right, so we're kind of in a D with a flat 5 territory. So it might be sort of Dorian, maybe. But then it kind of shifts to and then the other thing that I do to kind of, again, keep sustaining any sort of tension in it is wherever I can have a suspension, I do. So you're hearing like in the strings in the after the double bar there.
Yeah.
This is the violins, right? I'm moving basically one instrument at a time.
Yeah.
So in other words, there's real motion in it, but it's very slow and it doesn't really call much attention to itself, but it manages to have a kind of a slight majesty as it's rising.
A solemn air and the best comforter to an unsettled fancy. Cure thy brains, now useless, which boil within thy skull. The charm dissolves apace, and as the morning steals upon the night, melting the darkness, so their rising senses begin to chase the ignorant fumes that mantle their clearer reason. Their understanding begins to swell, and the approaching tide will shortly fill the reasonable shore that now lies foul and muddy. There stand, for you are spell-stopped.
Now, did I play this in rehearsals with Chris? Literally? I probably I probably didn't have it fully written then.
Yeah.
So I probably didn't. And then probably would pick spot.
Yeah.
I would just, come up and then probably, and I probably recorded myself a couple of times.
Yeah.
To see what I was improvising. But I don't think because this is not pianistic particularly.
No. Definitely want to hear this on strings.
Yeah, and I don't see a piano reduction, so I probably never did one.
Yeah.
I wrote it pretty directly for,
Violin 1, violin 2, violin 3.
Yeah.
And it looks like,
and then it's 3 violins and 3 cellos.
Yeah.
And probably, and so so the session was 2 players, and they would, probably double track everything.
Yeah.
And then I would mix it and make it work. The spot where they all stop in that is a second cue. So in other words, this as a piece of music doesn't have an ending, really.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, there's a repeat bar here at the end.
Yeah, and I'm just sort of repeating it, and it's long enough. And then I think what we heard, I think, was just a D, or maybe it was just a B when they stop, and he says, "Go get me my robe of office."
Yeah.
And then you're hearing the B, and then thou shalt ere long be free, right? And then and then we're in B minor.
Yeah.
So we're already there. So she's hearing her pedal tone.
Yeah.
And it comes in right on top of it.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing.
And you know, so that's how you do it and make it seem seamless.
Yeah.
So what you're hearing in that is because we sort of talked about how you do it. So there's probably there's probably 3 files on the initial string orchestra. There's probably then 2 files for the bass pedal that takes over when he stops it.
Yeah.
And then where the B sucks was probably 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Files, you know.
Yeah.
That I mixed in the room, and we did little crescendos of it and all that, you know.
Just incredible. The I people most certainly would never realize the amount of effort and work that went into that type of underscoring. But it's like, once again, like when you watch it on film, it totally works, and it's not sledgehammery. Like sometimes you can get like some really big underscore. Like John Williams is great at his underscores, but like sometimes it can be really heavy with like driving home a point. Yours, which is lovely, once again, you capture that ethereal quality of the island, that this music kind of glides in and out of the story, and it's just, it totally works. And and I mean, speaking of gliding in and out of things, like we can now get into the piece that kind of brought us all together, which is the Gonzalo underscore. The Utopia underscore. So like, so obviously so was it Dez's idea to have it where you want to support Gonzalo, or is that something you came up with in the rehearsal room?
You know, I don't remember, but I'll what I could safely say is once we got to that moment, Dez would probably look at me and say, "Yeah, you should probably do something."
Yeah,
you know, we were at the point as collaborators, and you know that. He didn't have to tell me anything, you know, unless I, you know, and sometimes he knew that I would have to watch it first.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the first time that we did, like I say, I probably didn't do much.
Yeah.
Because I'm probably listening.
Yeah.
And I'm probably giving it enough sort of arbitrary space that the little joking moments can happen on their own, and nobody's going to bat an eye, you know? And then I also know that I did repeat this as they're getting their feast, right?
Yes.
But this is another one. It's not unlike Drown My Book, in that it's a lot of half note and whole note movement. And then, again, not pianistic.
Yeah.
But it's basically, you know, even if you just look at the violins.
Yeah.
So there's something that seems it's going to be resolved somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's about how long can I sustain this.
Yeah.
So that you're kind of going to a suspended 2 there on that A.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to give myself permission to have some motion. So the C is staying there,
Yeah.
and then etc. So so in other words, what gives it some motion when you don't want to have a whole lot of motion to be felt or heard is just tiny little half note movement within whole note chords that you're sustaining. And you just keep looking for more ways to kind of keep sustaining it. I mean, in film parlance, like I say, and this is both a negative and positive connotation, it's grazing. You know, you're not moving a whole lot. But what's satisfying about it, I suppose, compositionally, you know, when I talk to other composers, the greatest feeling in the world for a composer, among others, but certainly one of them, is if you know that you've written something that sustains for a long time that only has one idea.
Right.
It's really fantastic. Then you know that you're kind of all right at this, you know?
Yeah.
And that you have the patience to just keep spinning one idea with tiny little increments of motion or dissonance or colors or whatever it is. It's because I was talking to a student, a sound design student she's very talented, young, but she's sort of figuring out what composition is, and her instincts with composition are kind of interestingly dissonant and complex. You know, it's not all C major; it's a little off center. You know.
Yeah.
But she changes her ideas all the time so that nothing hangs around long enough to have weight.
Right.
And now the other thing is, of course, and this is totally this wasn't even the case when I did Tempest, but you know, the power of digital audio workstations, the power of all the groovy tools we have in our computers means that you can kind of do anything and it's all in a box. And but what I always encourage the students that I've had is at a certain point you have to take it out of the box and look at it on paper. You have to look at something objectively and say, am I treating these notes well, as opposed to just what it sounds like and getting away with it.
Yeah.
Because DAWs make things easy, and that's fantastic, but sometimes it's too easy and you get lazy. Right. And maybe that's me as an older guy talking about this stuff, but I know on a certain level it's true. And if you're going to study composition, you have to get away from the box of the groovy sounds. Yeah. Because the groovy sounds are totally groovy. They're great. I use them myself, you know? Yeah. But every so often you got to break it out of a Pro Tools session and look at it on paper and say, am I making the best choices? And that's composition, right? So
yeah, exactly. So, like, question to you, because when you were writing this, obviously you're in the room with the actor playing Gonzalo. Yeah. So then, would you actually like time out, like, be counting to yourself how long he takes before he gets to a moment where you can really kind of, as you said, move in there? Like, is that something you were counting?
A little bit, because it's obviously going to change.
Yeah, every night.
Every night. Yeah. So I probably, and this I don't remember, and I don't have the whole script in front of me. I probably took some timings and did some work, and you know, I mean, you know, and knew this would have a certain sort of stately tempo, you know. Yeah. Yeah. And I knew that it was going to work its way up to follow his argument. Yes. But work its way up in a fairly subtle way, so that he's still driving.
By contraries, execute all things. For no kind of traffic would I admit to. No name of magistrate. Letters should not be known. Riches, poverty, and use of servants, none. Contract, inheritance, born, bound of land, tilth, vineyard, none. No use of metal, corn, or wine, or oil. No occupation. All men idle. All. And women too. But innocent and pure. No sovereignty.
Yet he would be king on
The latter end of his commonwealth forgets the beginning.
All things in common nature should produce without sweat or endeavor. Treason, felony, sword, pike, knife, gun, or need of any engine would I not have. But nature should bring forth of her own kind all poison, all...
So I'm not, and obviously now there's a lot of instances in underscoring where I allow for beat changes by doing a crossfade to a different cue, and I make the crossfade musical enough in it compositionally that you would never know I just did a crossfade.
Right. Yeah.
And in film scoring, that would happen automatically because everything would be set to time. It's why composers are the last people in the room, because you don't want to change the timing on a composer. It's not nice.
So interesting. So then, obviously, now we will segue into kind of your new big project that you've been working on that kind of used this music as well. So you brought this music back for your web opera because one of your characters is writing an essay and uses the Gonzalo Utopia speech in her essay. So first, why don't you tell us a little bit about the web opera and then kind of like how you came to revisiting and reusing the Gonzalo bit again.
And just to be clear, it's not like I had this idea right away. I certainly didn't. But what happened was, the web opera is my most personal project. It has been entirely self-produced. It's a reason why I'm happy to talk to people about it, encourage people to please have a look at it. These are the two reasons why it exists, I suppose. One is creating new musical theater or opera is hard, and you end up spending a lot of time in workshops, and you don't know if you're ever going to have a production, and you really don't know what the hell this is going to be unless you're lucky and you have some power that to see into the future. And there's many music theater pieces that have lived and died in a basement somewhere, and
so sad.
And that's showbiz. It's I have some myself. So what I would tell writers who I'd meet along the way about, hey, let's write a musical. Fantastic, let's write a musical. What could possibly go wrong? Is but we can make a film. The technology exists that we can, in fact, make a film. And the advantage would be that it exists, that people can look at it. If somebody watches this interview a year from now and says, I wonder what the web opera is, it'll be there. They can find it. It will exist. Okay? And also, I don't have to think about what, in fact, a live orchestra or band or whatever would do. I can do what I feel like doing. And as you can probably tell from looking at my scores, I don't really write piano vocals unless I have to. The web opera as a score is 16 staves, the whole thing. And it's not very pianistic. So all of those things made me say to various writers, let's make a movie, what could go wrong? And now then there's one particular writer, her name is Kate Gale, and she's a poet, and she's written some libretti, and she said, okay, let's see where this can go. It's interesting, Around the same time, And again, I don't remember a precise timeline of how this circled around, but the terrible tragedy of Tyler Clementi happened. And so this, in a word, is this young man who was a student at Rutgers University, and he had just come out sexually. He had just, and he's a freshman at Rutgers, and so he's just sort of defined who he is on a certain level.
He's finding himself.
Right, which everybody does at some point. You don't know who you are, and then you kind of know who you are, and then you are a little. And at 18, when you're moving away from whatever that home life is, that's an interesting transition for absolutely everybody. And you're living with a roommate. And the roommate's going through interesting stuff too. Now, what happened in the real story is that Tyler set up a date with someone, told his roommate he needed the room. The roommate said okay, but the roommate was a very sophisticated computer user and had set up his webcam essentially to look at the whole room, including the door. So that if anybody came in to steal something, he might be able to. Him. So his webcam was always on, even if the monitor wasn't. It was just on. So Tyler's friend came over. The roommate saw him and just didn't like the look of the guy. So he went to his friend's room and said, and they're talking like 18-year-olds would, and he's saying, I don't like this guy. He looks creepy, whatever. It just looks suspicious. And I don't want anybody stealing my stuff. And so, and basically, it led to the roommate and his friend, a young woman, saying, what does he look like? Well, actually, we can have a look at him because my webcam's on, and if you go to my iChat, you can see it. And they had a look. They felt a little weird about it. The look was about 5 seconds, and it's about 10 seconds. It's not long, right? And then in the rest of the evening, the roommates come over and, what are you guys doing? And we say, well, we looked, but it was weird, and the boyfriend, he's with a guy, whatever, And then at a certain point, somebody else had a look. But in the middle of that evening, after agreeing, we shouldn't really talk about this, whatever. The roommate sends out a tweet that essentially says, went to in the opera, it's June, went to June's room, turned on the webcam, saw my roommate making out with a dude, yay, and kind of tweeted that out. Now, this is what's interesting about it. Now the conclusion of all this is finally Tyler did commit suicide, and it's clearly a tragedy. As much to to dissect and to take apart. But what interested me as I thought about it, and I've thought about it since, is that could have happened for your generation, but my generation, no, that couldn't happen. I mean, right? I mean, you're about, because how old are you, Mackenzie?
I'm 27. So
you're 27. So you're even younger than these guys. Yeah. But when I was in school, which is not to say there's good old days or anything, but the whole idea of putting a message out into the universe, that's not been around for 100 years.
No, it's a new turn of the century bit of technology that we're still learning about.
Right. And we're still figuring out what the hell it is and what we're doing and what it's doing to us. Because as I've said many times, look, the most unique new thing in America right now to my mind, is that Donald Trump's been outlawed from Twitter.
Yeah.
Because we lived for 4 years with this guy sending out any message he felt like. That's the operative word. Whatever you feel like saying, you can say. What could possibly go wrong? Right? And so, to my mind, when he decides, hey, my roommate's making out with a dude.
Yeah.
It's not like he's consciously saying, this'll get that bastard.
Yeah.
He's not thinking that at
it's
all.
flippant. Yeah.
It's totally flippant. There's no sense of consequence. He doesn't care. It doesn't matter. He didn't give it any thought.
Yeah.
Consciously. Unconsciously, we can certainly unravel that.
Yeah.
And where the story then goes, certainly there's more to it than that. But the first instance, is... And then if you look at it historically, in terms of what actually happened, they had to figure out what the crime was.
Yeah.
It's not like cyberbullying and cyber abuse has existed for 40 years. It hasn't. It's the new frontier. Yeah. And it's the new frontier of hurtfulness.
Yes.
So I find all that very compelling and a real, the social conscience artist that I try to be, says we've created a real beast here, and we're continuing to feed it every day, and the result politically and sociologically is really strange, and none of us really know what it means. So like I say, we're in a very strange, brave new world, to quote the Tempest, right? And the other thing that really appealed to me as I thought about writing a filmed opera that was online is, if we shot it correctly, that is to say, if we shot everything from the point of view of either a computer or an iPhone or an iPad, which we have, then the viewer is violating the privacy of all of our characters.
Yeah.
And the viewer is being a voyeur, violating privacy, while the main action is we're watching somebody violate somebody's privacy. Yeah. And we're complicit.
Yeah.
So that's the web opera. And as I say, we've been an official selection at 29 film festivals. Thank you very much. We've gotten some very good reviews. It's still finding its way out there. Every couple of weeks I hear from a stranger who suddenly has discovered it and says, this is really interesting. And I appreciate the social message of it that's clear in our website, that we're connecting to groups about cyber abuse and all that kind of. Okay. So we get to the third. So there's 3 scenes that are published, and I'm in the middle of, and they were released in 2019. Yeah. Episode 4 is on the way. It's been composed. The composer did it. It's going to be a cappella and a motet, which sounds very familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Is Alice coming to join that one?
Yeah, I'm a one-trick pony, man. But so we knew that the guy from episode 1, the roommate, had to go see this woman, his friend, in her room, and she has to be doing something. See, this is the other thing about film opera as opposed to musical theater or opera. Yeah. You can't not be doing something. You have to be doing something. Yeah. So the idea occurred to me that she would be writing a term paper. Yeah. And over a period of a few weeks, the idea that she would be writing about political, the idealism of the beginning of America. Yeah. And the fact that she actually refers to this mosque that there were protests about because it was near Ground Zero, but it's in fact right next to where Washington gave one of his major addresses way back when, all about compassion and understanding people who say things. Yeah. And then we needed her to kind of do something in the term paper.
Mm-hmm.
And that led to me remembering, oh yeah, way back when, a few years before, I had, dealt with this utopian vision of the island that Gonzalo says. And looking at the text again, so I'm trying to get to it here. So here's the web opera. It's a bigger thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as I kept looking at the text, I said, she's writing a term paper, and like everything else, when you're writing anything now, you can just take a text from something and cut it and put it in your paper.
Yeah, cite it and get it in there.
Yeah. And so, so we see her at a certain point once she's just alone with her roommate again after the tweet's been sent, and we needed them to she needed to keep working while her roommate got out her iPad and had another look at the guy. Yeah. And that's what happens. So I did take I mean, that is essentially what I wrote.
Yeah.
I kind of took it and kind of kept playing with it. But she sang.
Had I plantation of this isle, and were the king, what would I do? No kind of traffic would I admit, no occupation.
Two women singing, and Shakespeare gave me, and women too, right? Yeah. Which I like. Is like it's like this little, it's this tiny sort of feminist moment that Shakespeare gave me that I could actually do just a tiny thing with, but innocent, pure, and then any food here, and then they talk about the Thai food that they ate last night, and then while her roommate takes out her iPad and is going to get the Thai food, she is sitting there, and in the shots that I think are really great, it's just this close up of this woman Molly, this actress Molly, the camera's right up on her face.
Yeah.
And the motion graphics by Chris Gall with Crazy Bridge Studios here.
Yeah.
As you see the square come around her because she's looking at a square, and she just makes it bigger and bigger, and you just see it circling in on her face. So you're watching somebody watch something.
Yeah.
And she finally says, oh, okay, well, whatever. That was nothing much,
Yeah.
But while she's doing that, we hear all things in common nature should produce without sweat or endeavor. Sword, pike, knife, and gun, or need of any engine would I not have, but nature should bring forth. And then they interrupt and says, well, he's nerdy, but at least he's having sex.
Yeah.
And then they end with, of its own kind, all abundance. To feed my innocent people, I would with all perfection govern, sir, to excel the golden age.
My innocent people, I would with all perfection govern, sir, to excel the golden age.
So obviously I'm playing with some irony here because this is a noble vision of how we should treat each other, who we should be, how we are, at the same time that we've just committed a crime.
Yeah.
And we don't even know that we've done that.
Yeah.
We've maybe done something that we think was maybe,
shady.
Weird. Yeah, a little shitty, but who's going to tell anybody? Nobody knows about it. Nobody cares about it. It's completely innocuous that we did it, and nobody will ever know, and it doesn't matter. So we're just going to go back to our Thai food, and I'm going to write my paper about the nobility of human thought in America, right?
Yeah.
Because, but in the meantime, you've just committed a crime. You don't even know what the crime is, and as you know, then we cut to what did happen later that night, which is that Tyler, who in our case we call Violinist 98. Nobody has they're all email addresses. Reads the tweet and then looks up at the webcam and sees what's happened. And, is he the first person that's happened to? But, what's interesting to me, Mackenzie, is that we all do things like that.
We do.
In our own weird way. Maybe not as direct as that, but we all can look up people so easily.
Yeah.
We want to see if they're pretty. We want to see if they're married. We want to see if they have any money. We want to see, do we have anybody in common? We do things that, as I say, when I was in my 20s, you have to actually put some effort into it. Now, and somehow we think it's okay to share this information instantly. So the web opera it's free. It will always be free. I knew we've gotten a little bit of grant money for it, but for what it's worth, it's cost me about $19,000 over 6 years to do.
Wow.
But I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of what it says. I'm very proud of it musically.
Yeah.
Because I think it sort of summarizes everything that I'm about, both as a sound artist and as a composer. So like I say, and episode 4 I have a demo of the first 5 minutes up on the website.
It's great.
Thank you.
I will just say, I love this web opera because I've watched the 3 episodes and I've watched the little snippet of episode 4 that you've got out there. But what I love most about it is how you knew the right forum for this piece.
Yeah.
Where instead of being, because as you said, sometimes people are like, well, I want to see this go on stage. I want to see it up on the big lights on Broadway. Yeah. But it's like this type of story works so well.
This is my Broadway musical. Clearly, I'm totally realistic about that. So.
Well, I mean, I think this piece just lives so well where you put it, where it deserves to live on a screen, playing with technology that way, because that's what the story is. And I love the fact that you knew that and were able to really just take it and run with it. Like, especially episode 3 with the way the graphics work and I said the camera working, like it just, I couldn't see it being any other way on stage because the stage.
I really appreciate that, and it's one of the things that I it's interesting because I know that episodes 1 and 2 take a little bit of time to get there because I do feel like everything explodes in episode 3, but I can't. But you need to have episodes 1 and 2 happen to just kind of get the stakes of it.
Yeah.
But and I think you and I said this to you in a previous chat that the other thing about it that is cinema, for want of a better term, is when he sends out the tweet, he doesn't sing it.
Nope.
It's the climax of episode 3 that nobody knows happened except us. And if it were an opera, I mean. Okay, yes, technically we could put it on a screen and this tweet would take over, but I don't know if that would be really good.
On stage it would fall a bit flat, I think, because I know a lot of shows depend on projections nowadays.
Yeah.
And once again, like projections work somewhat when you're wanting to do a plot point, at least on stage, because it's such a vast space. You do need to have it focused on. Voicing it, which is...
whereas clearly the tweet takes over.
Yes.
As I say, it's a gunshot.
Yeah.
That you don't that, and the only thing that tells you it's coming is that you see it. You see it as he's typing it, and boy, the graphics. I mean, Chris did.
It's great.
A great job. I mean, because I finally said, look, this moment's yours, man.
Yeah.
I mean, and he knew the story, and he was politically totally into it.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, I mean, I'm the climax of these 3 episodes. I'm the event.
Yep.
And because nobody even knows it happened. I mean, the guy doesn't, but then he leaves and we're done.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, once again, it captures that flippant way that we communicate and the way we use social media so well. And it's such a great climax. Like if this was on stage, this would be the great end to a first act of a show. Right. Where you just see that tweet go, and then act 2 is the repercussions of that tweet. Right. But it's just such a great climax. And once again, it's just knowing the forum and the spaces. I think especially nowadays where we are using so much more digital theater and Zoom theater, where it's a new skill to learn for people is how do you utilize the space, the digital space you have to really emphasize the piece. Just like how on stage, the way that Gonzalo's underscore emphasized that beautiful moment and brought the audience onto Gonzalo's side. That tweet does so much without, as you said, without saying anything. It's just perfect. So I highly recommend everybody watch. I didn't know about this case, but after talking to you about it and watching the web series, I absolutely went back and reread up on the case, and it is heartbreaking what happened. No,
I mean it's a terrible tragedy, but it's a unique tragedy.
Yes.
Of us.
Yeah.
And its ramifications are everywhere to me, even if it's not an overt thing.
Exactly. Well, I mean, we've been going at this now for over 4 hours in total since we recorded part 1 and part 2 back to back, but we've done so much great stuff. And
thank you,
Michael, I just got to say, on behalf of myself, Ryan, all of us here at Cup of Hemlock, thank you so much for doing this. Like, thank you first reaching out and just sending us that lovely message, acknowledging the little shout out that Ryan and I gave, and then just letting this snowball into something really special here. Like, definitely want to have you back so we can discuss more of this stuff. And as the web opera grows, definitely get you in there on that too, because I mean, there's so much more to get into that we just haven't had a chance, just because of our time for this particular moment. But there's you have such a plethora of knowledge and experiences in the industry and your work, so definitely we'll definitely do a follow-up part 3, I guess, experience where we'll revisit more. But like, I just want to say thank you so much for doing this. Like,
my pleasure. Well, thank you, Mackenzie. No, it's all cool. It's all grist for the mill. We just keep going and figuring out, because it raineth every day, right? So
it does raineth every day. But before we go though, Michael, why don't you give us some social plugs so people do want to follow your website, the web series, web opera? Like, where can people find and follow that? Just so
it is very easy to find the web opera. It is at thewebopera.com, and it's one word, thewebopera.com. And
I'm surprised that domain was not taken.
Yeah, nobody had taken it. And then as for finding the rest of my work, my website is it's slightly complicated because it's a free Wix site. I pay for the web opera site.
Yeah.
So it really, I think if you just look up Roth music, ROTHMUSIK, you're bound to find me.
Yes.
And if you look up Michael Roth in Facebook, and you see a picture of a tortoise and a hippo, who are best friends. That's Owen and MZ. Do you know that story? It's beautiful.
No, I don't.
Look it up. That's an actual picture of a really old tortoise and a baby hippo who became best friends. Owen and MZ, MZEE. If you want to friend me in Facebook, chances are you can friend me in Facebook. And
love it.
I don't tweet. I am on Instagram, but I don't pay much attention to it because I kind of don't understand. Why would I want to send anybody a photo of me? Good Lord. I mean,
Well, to be honest, my Instagram was barely used, and then once I started my podcast and my work at Cup of Hemlock, now basically the whole page is just sharing posts of that, which is just sharing the information there. So that's basically all I've used it for.
Yeah.
Up till then,
I kind of don't know how, and I'm not curious enough. And then the only other thing I'll say is that as for projects I'm working on, besides episode 4 of the web opera, which with any luck, 2022 will exist, and the concert of Randy's Faust here in LA, late 2022 is the earliest I can imagine it. But you know, the world is crazy. I have, you know, it's too. But the other thing, there's a writer I'm working with quite a bit nowadays. Her name is Frances Yachu Cowig. Francis with an E, and Yachu is how you might spell it, with a hyphen, and then Cowig is Cowhig. She's a very, very good writer and interesting collaborator. How we met, I'll tell you sometime. But Playwrights Horizons in New York has commissioned a audio play from her that has quite a bit of music and songs in it. So I'm directing it. And it's featuring an Asian actor who lives in Amsterdam. His name is Kokwa Lee. I think that's how you pronounce it. And probably he'll never hear this, but it's okay. But a very talented fellow. He was, speaking of musical theater, in the UK tour of The King and I. He was the King's. So who's the actor who played it?
Ken Watanabe played it in the West End.
Right. Yeah. So he was the understudy, and he was in the West. He was in the UK tour as the King when the pandemic hit, and he went back to his home in Amsterdam. But so we're having Zoom rehearsals with him in Amsterdam and me here. That's kind of amusing. Anyway,
once again, technology.
Yeah. But it's a piece called the last words of the final. I think it's the final words of Uncle Dirt, but it will be at the Playwrights Horizons website by I think late summer.
Love that. We'll keep an eye out for that.
You know, and then other than that, you know, I get up every day and try to compose something. So there you go.
Love that. Well, I mean. Thank you again, Michael. You can follow me, any of our watchers, listeners, at Mackenzie Horner. Just look for the ginger hair photo. You can also follow my podcast, Before the Dumpy. Who knows? Maybe Michael will be a guest for an episode. We'll find a musical for him to come on and talk about. Who knows? Yeah, we'll find something there for that. So we definitely can do that, and then. Keep an eye out for more fun Cup of Hemlock stuff. We have more COH shorts and scenes coming your way. But other than that, everybody, just thank you again. Thank you so much, Michael. And everybody, just please stay healthy, stay safe. The light is there at the end of the tunnel. We just gotta keep hunkered down just a little bit longer. There we go. All right, everybody. Thank you. Stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll see you all again next time on The Cup. Bye.